Imagine standing before a microphone for 20 consecutive days without losing your voice or your mind. In the heart of Lagos, a city that never sleeps, a group of determined Nigerians decided to challenge the limits of human endurance and the power of the spoken word. They didn't just speak, they commanded history into existence. This is the story of the School of Eloquence and their grueling 480-hour marathon that shattered every expectation and placed Nigeria into the global record books. The School of Eloquence, founded by visionaries, has always been a sanctuary for those seeking to master the art of communication. But mastery requires more than just practice, it requires a test of fire. Nestled within the bustling urban landscape of Ikeja, this institution became the battleground for an unprecedented linguistic feat. The mission was clear: to prove that the African voice is resilient, articulate, and capable of sustaining a narrative longer than any other group on the planet, breaking all previous barriers. The world record for the longest speech marathon is not a title for the faint of heart. It requires a relentless schedule, scientific precision, and a team that operates like a well-oiled machine. As the digital clock was unveiled, the gravity of the task ahead began to settle over the participants. 480 hours translates to 20 full days of continuous oratory. This was not just a performance, it was a physical and psychological siege against the ticking clock of destiny. Months of preparation went into this historic attempt. The speakers had to train their vocal cords like elite athletes, practicing breathing techniques and throat-soothing rituals. Nutritionists and medical experts were consulted to ensure that the human body could withstand the lack of sleep and the constant strain of articulation. Every detail, from the lighting of the room to the hydration of the speakers, was meticulously planned. Nigeria was preparing to speak to the world, and there was no room for error. On the day the marathon officially commenced, the atmosphere in Lagos was electric. Dignitaries, students, and curious onlookers gathered to witness the first words. As the leader of the team stepped up to the podium, a hush fell over the crowd. With a deep breath and a steady gaze, the silence was broken. The clock started its long journey toward the 480-hour mark. It was the beginning of a marathon that would test the very soul of the participants. Strict rules governed every second of the marathon. According to international standards, the speakers were only allowed minimal breaks for rest and rejuvenation. Every word had to be distinct, and the topics had to remain relevant and engaging. Independent observers watched every move, recording the time with surgical accuracy. One slip of the tongue or an accidental silence longer than permitted could end the entire attempt in an instant. The pressure was immense, yet the speakers remained remarkably composed and focused. By the third day, the initial adrenaline began to fade, replaced by the reality of the grind. The speakers' voices began to raspy, and their eyes showed the first signs of heavy fatigue. Yet, the spirit of the team never wavered. They leaned on each other, using the collective energy of the room to stay upright. In the streets of Lagos, news began to spread. This wasn't just a local event anymore, it was becoming a national obsession and a symbol of pride. A dedicated medical team remained on standby 24 hours a day. They monitored blood pressure, heart rates, and vocal fold inflammation. Massage therapists worked on stiff muscles during the briefest of breaks, and throat lozenges were consumed by the hundreds. The human body is not designed to stay awake and talk for weeks, but the Nigerian spirit is designed to persevere. Every medical checkup was a reminder of the sheer physicality of this intellectual pursuit, making the journey even more impressive. Throughout the marathon, the speakers traversed a vast landscape of topics, from Nigerian history and economic philosophy to the nuances of African literature and personal development. Each hour required fresh content, preventing the repetition that could disqualify the attempt. The intellectual stamina required was just as demanding as the physical toll on their bodies. Every word uttered was a brick in a monumental tower of knowledge, built in real time before a global audience that watched in absolute fascination and deep-seated national pride. As the marathon entered its second week, Lagos was hit by torrential tropical rains. The sound of water drumming against the roof of the auditorium provided a rhythmic backdrop to the ongoing speeches. Inside, the world was focused and warm, but outside, the elements were a reminder of the harsh world they were trying to inspire. The speakers used the weather as inspiration, talking about resilience in the face of the storm, perfectly mirroring their own struggle against the clock and exhaustion. Public engagement reached a fever pitch. Social media platforms were flooded with clips of the marathon, and the hashtag for the event trended across the continent. Nigerians from all walks of life sent messages of encouragement, viewing the speakers as heroes of modern culture. The auditorium, once a quiet space for learning, had become a temple of endurance. People traveled from distant states just to sit in the audience for an hour, adding their energy to the collective effort to break the record. Midnight shifts were the most difficult. Between the hours of 2 and 5 in the morning, the silence of the city felt heavy. The speakers had to fight the natural urge to sleep, often standing up or walking around the stage to keep their circulation flowing. The audience was smaller during these hours, but those who remained were the most dedicated. These were the moments where the record was truly won, in the quiet, lonely hours when only sheer willpower kept the words flowing. Voice health was the primary concern for the technical team. They utilized high-quality microphones that captured every nuance without requiring the speakers to shout. The room's humidity was carefully controlled to keep vocal cords from drying out. Warm water with lemon and honey became the elixir of life for the orators. They spoke with a cadence that preserved their strength, turning the marathon into a rhythmic, almost hypnotic experience for anyone who tuned in to listen to their powerful message. The independent observers played a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of the record. They were rotated every few hours to ensure they remained alert and objective. Every pause was timed, every word scrutinized. Their presence was a constant reminder of the high stakes involved. This was not just for show, it was an official attempt to change the history of human achievement. The observers' logs would eventually be sent to the headquarters for final verification, making their accuracy absolutely vital. When the clock finally crossed the 200-hour mark, a wave of renewed energy swept through the School of Eloquence. They were nearly halfway there, but the hardest part was still to come. The speakers began to experience auditory hallucinations and extreme physical weakness. Their feet were swollen, and their minds were foggy, yet the content of their speeches remained surprisingly profound. They spoke of African unity, the future of technology, and the importance of leadership, proving that the mind can transcend the body's limits. Nigerian cultural pride was at the center of every session. Speakers often switched between English and local dialects to emphasize the richness of their heritage. They wore traditional fabrics, showcasing the vibrant colors of West Africa to the world. This wasn't just about a record, it was a celebration of the Nigerian identity. By the 15th day, the marathon had become a symbol of what Nigerians can achieve when they are united by a single, audacious goal and a shared sense of purpose. International news outlets began to pick up the story, broadcasting the live stream to millions around the globe. From London to New York, people were mesmerized by the stamina of the Lagos team. The School of Eloquence had successfully turned a local event into a global phenomenon. In an era of short attention spans and soundbites, the world was forced to slow down and acknowledge the power of long-form oratory and the incredible endurance of these African speakers on the world stage. Crossing the 400-hour milestone was a moment of pure emotion. Many in the room wept openly as they realized they were within striking distance of history. The fatigue was still there, but it was overshadowed by a sense of impending victory. The speakers' voices, though weary, carried a new weight of authority. They were no longer just participants, they were survivors of a grueling trial. Only 80 hours remained between them and a record that would likely stand for decades to come. During the final stretch, sleep deprivation symptoms were at their peak. Some speakers had to be reminded of where they were, yet as soon as the microphone was in front of them, they snapped back into focus. It was a testament to their professional training and their deep passion for the art of speaking. The bond between the team members had become unbreakable. They were no longer individuals but a single, collective voice that refused to be silenced, even as their bodies begged for rest. The final 24 hours were a blur of excitement and tension. The auditorium was packed to capacity, with people standing in the aisles and spilling out into the hallways. Every time a speaker finished a segment, the applause was thunderous. The energy in the room was palpable, acting as a final surge of fuel for the exhausted orators. They were speaking not just for themselves, but for the pride of their nation and the legacy of the School of Eloquence in Lagos. As the clock finally struck the 480th hour, the room erupted into a symphony of cheers and tears. The exhaustion that had weighed down their shoulders for 20 days vanished in an instant, replaced by the weightless euphoria of a monumental achievement. They had done the impossible. In the middle of Lagos, a group of dark-skinned African orators had spoken their way into the history books, proving that the Nigerian voice is a force of nature itself, capable of overcoming any obstacle. The official confirmation from the record-keeping body was the final piece of the puzzle. The School of Eloquence had smashed the previous record, setting a new bar for human endurance in speech. The news spread like wildfire, with the Independent newspaper and other major outlets heralding the event as a historic milestone. Nigeria had once again shown its capacity for excellence, discipline, and the pursuit of world-class standards. This wasn't just a record for a school, it was a record for an entire continent. The legacy of this 480-hour marathon will inspire generations of Nigerian youth. It serves as a reminder that with enough preparation, resilience, and belief, no goal is too high. The School of Eloquence has cemented its place as a leader in communication, but more importantly, it has shown the world the depth and power of the African narrative. The record is more than a number, it is a symbol of the tireless pursuit of greatness that defines the modern Nigerian spirit and culture. As the sun sets over the Lagos Lagoon, the echoes of the 480-hour marathon remain. This was more than just a record, it was a testament to the Nigerian spirit of excellence and endurance. The School of Eloquence has proven that when we speak with purpose, the entire world stops to listen. In the silence that follows, we find the strength of a nation that refuses to be quieted, forever etched in the annals of history. The voice of Nigeria has never been louder.